Welcome to this week's edition of Pete Smith Host. Well, somebody making a whistle-stop tour through Christchurch, and I was lucky enough to be able to grab him, former New Zealand cricketer, captain. Now, well, I suppose he'd sum up everything, wouldn't he? Rugby, racing and beer, but in fact, my guest actually was quite a good football player, soccer as we know it. So it just takes that out of the equation. But as far as the racing goes and the cricket goes, he's pretty obsessed with it still, I would think, because he's got an investment with his son now playing for the Black Caps. Ken Rutherford, welcome to Christchurch, and I hope you enjoy your time. I hope you get to have a bit of a look around. Won't take you long.
Won't take me long. I've heard all the stories, Pete, and look, what a shame it's happened to the great city. But
it is, right. Did you enjoy Lancaster Park as a cricketer?
Loved it. I guess that's one of the great sadnesses of everyone who loves Canterbury sport, isn't it? That the great ground has been lost, but great memories there. Got a Test 100 there.
You did.
A couple of wins against Pakistan. I remember winning a Test match there as captain. So love playing Lancaster.
And they're pretty rare, those moments, Ken, aren't they, for New Zealand to win?
Especially when I was captain, Pete. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, let's go back though a little bit. Baptism of fire. It's been well documented how Ken got involved as an opener and played for New Zealand against probably, arguably, the best all-round fast attack that the world's ever seen, I would have thought, because they just kept coming one after the other, didn't they? You look back, a mistake by the selectors or what, Ken?
Yeah, I suppose it was. I mean, it's easy to make that
well, you're not going to turn it down, are you?
You're not going to turn it down. I mean, I was 19 years of age, I think, and you get picked to play for your country. You're not going to turn around and say, looks a bit tough, doesn't it, young fella? But no, look, a hell of an experience overall to go to a place like that for 3 months and to play against arguably maybe the best ever cricket side. I mean, just look at the stars that they had. They've become immortal, all those players. The Marshalls, the Holdings, the Garners, Viv Richards, obviously, Gordon Greenidge, Desmond Haynes, Larry Gomes, Richie Richardson.
They are the game, aren't they?
They are the game. I mean, if you talk about Caribbean cricket, certainly that was their best era, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Through the early
Which we'll talk about the
days.
demise of it a little later on, because of course Ken's son Hamish is involved and just been involved in the series against the West Indies, who are a totally different looking side. But did you get to a point where you just thought, I wish one of the bowlers would bugger off? They just kept coming, didn't they? Pace.
I got to the point where I was hoping one of my other teammates would step up and say, look, I'll play. But whenever that got the slight chance of happening, someone else got injured, and I forced in the situation really in the last two tests I had to play because I was the only guy left standing, basically. It was that kind of tour. The attrition rate was huge. I mean, obviously playing in those conditions where it's quite arid, dry, hot, it's difficult anyway, but once getting out there on those pitches where it's like glass, it's that hard, and the ball pings off it, and you got Marshall steaming in, you got Garner holding. I mean, it was difficult. Really.
They were lovely bowlers, though, by the same token, weren't they? They were great examples of fast bowling.
Well, the year before, Pete, 1984, I was the young player to Lords. I mean, New Zealand cricket used to send a young player to go to Lords on a scholarship, and it was a West Indies tour there in '84 against England, and they beat England 5-0. And to watch them at Lords in a test match there when I think they chased down about 400 and Greenwich got 200, and to see Marshall.
You see, that's the problem, they could bat as well. They could bowl you out, but they could bat.
They could really bat, and Richie Richardson went on to be a great player. Larry Gomes' record, he batted 3 for the West Indies.
And probably not mentioned a hell of a lot in that group.
But he was the ideal guy amongst all those stroke makers. I mean, he was a guy who used to go out there and bat for a long period of time and look to play pretty orthodox, but the rest of the guys obviously played their shots.
I'd actually forgotten, of course, you did get that scholarship. Which county did you join?
No, it was just the MCC itself. You're based at Lords itself, out in the nursery end there. We had a hostel up at St John's Wood where you spent a good 6 months. It was a learning experience, Pete. I remember arriving there, I think, on Good Friday, and a lot of the guys weren't arriving until next week, the guys who were joining me on the staff there. And I met some Scottish blokes down the pub down in Hampstead, and who were also staying at the same hostel, and they said, well, tomorrow being Sunday, Easter Sunday, do you want to come to a game of football? I said, yeah.
Who was your club?
It turned out to be Millwall.
Oh, yeah?
It was the old den, and of course Millwall in those days, and still there's a bit of a connotation there with Millwall being fairly right wing in their views, and that was very much an experience for a young lad.
Did you have an English soccer team at that stage?
Look, I've always supported Man United. I mean, '73 was probably when I started, when they actually got relegated from the old Division 1 to Division 2. I mean, a great team. Yeah. An older team, '73, obviously was Bobby Charlton and George Best and those guys just on the way out, but always followed United. And
I saw them at English Park when they toured here. I think they won about 13-0, and they'd got them all by half time, and then it was just a bit of fun after that.
It was sort of
all the stars were there. It was
late
great.
70s, wasn't it?
Yeah. English Park it was. Yeah,
I remember.
But they were not my club. Arsenal's still my club, so there we are. But I digress. Did you get to play a lot of cricket as a scholarship boy or not?
Yeah, played the whole season. So basically we had a schedule where you played all the second 11s. So you played the Kents, the Surreys, the Sussexes, did a little tour. We were treated pretty much as a second 11, so part of that whole program. And then a lot of the local lads would go and play club cricket in their local towns and villages at the weekend. I'll be left to my own devices and play for a couple of local London
Probably
sides.
found a racetrack or two, did you, Ken?
Yeah, I did. I might have found a bookie or two too, yeah.
Because that's where his life's taken him too, which is very, very interesting. When that tour was over, did you think your career was over?
No, not at all. No. I actually, instead of coming back to New Zealand after the West Indies tour, I went back to England and played club cricket up in the Yorkshire League for Hull. And a lot of Kiwis were up at Hull then, playing rugby league, Gary Kimball and a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
Hull KR and Hull FC, and just got away from it all, mate, just for 3 or 4 months. He was living down the road in Derby, so I used to go and play a bit of tennis and squash with him.
He's not frightened of a racehorse either,
He's
John, right?
He's not scared of a racehorse. Actually went to the York races that particular time too, 85. So no, I just got out of it, freshened up and went back to Otago. I started coaching a bit of cricket down in Central Otago, lived up there for a couple of seasons. And it was a great opportunity to get out of it and take whatever I could out of the West Indies tour.
Was Leesy coaching Otago then?
I think he's still playing.
Still playing?
I think while he was still playing in 85.
Because he came into your life again, of course, didn't he?
Yeah, when he coached the team in 92 around then.
Correct,
so,
we're going to come up to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But just to get a call up again, you must have played some good cricket.
Yeah, I had a good season. There would have been 85, 86 season. That was when the guys went to Australia pre-Christmas.
Yes.
And Paddles got his 9 at the Gabba. And then the guys came back, and I remember the first team meeting we had at Karori Park before the Basin Reserve Test, and Gary Troop and I were the only ones who hadn't been to Australia around Christmas, and then the one day after the New Year. And you remember Paddles won the car.
Yes, that was the fight over how you split a car up.
Yes, and the first meeting...
Was Cody the captain?
Yeah, Jerry was the captain, I think. Yeah, he was too. Yeah, and the first... Turner was coach, and the first meeting we had at Karori Park was not about batting, bowling, the Aussies, whatever. It was, right, what are we going to do with this bloody car? And Troop, Edie and Ruds, do you want to sit in on this or not?
You wouldn't get
I'll sit in on this. Yeah, I want to. I was
right
next to John Bracewell going, Braceless, get your share, mate. You know, that was quite an odd time to be a part of it.
How did they ever resolve that?
I'm actually not too sure. I think Paddles might have, he probably sold a book on it, didn't he? It's probably
There'll
a chapter. We should all know this. Yeah.
We should know the answer. If you do, let me know, because no one else knows. But amazing to be at a meeting where you've got no input really at all, but you're asked for it.
No, in 2 days' time we're facing Craig McDermott, Bruce Reid, and
nice people, Australians.
And Greg Matthews and those lovely guys. And so Alan Border was captain of that great.
Did you ever envisage captain in the side?
I guess I probably didn't. Probably not in the circumstances that I ended up doing it, because Crowe got injured, I think, before a game against Pakistan at Hamilton. It was my first time I captained the side. I think it was about 91, 92, around about then. I guess when you grow up, I always kept an Otago age group size growing up and club size and stuff like that. I kept an Otago in the late 80s. So I guess at the back of my mind, I thought if I'm good enough as a player to secure my place in the side, then you tend to go for an experienced batsman, don't you, as a captain kind of person. So
but you don't make a bowler a captain, do you?
You don't make a bowler a captain. I mean, there's many examples of that. But so I probably did it at the back of my mind, but I mean, it's not something you put your hand up and say, I'm going to captain New Zealand. You never do something like that.
And then it all got exciting from there. When we come back, Ken Rutherford, as I say, make a fleeting visit through Christchurch. Great chance to catch up with my mate Ken. So we're back in a moment. You notice the new set? I tell you, next week it's going to get even better. We've got the desk in, it's a start, okay? So we're starting to tangle with the big boys now on television, so look out. I'm getting used to it, it's quite good. Ken Rutherford's with me, and we're going to talk, this time next year, we'll all be embroiled in Cricket World Cup. Really looking forward to it. I was talking to Brendan McCullum, big noting and dropping now as I am, and he just said, wouldn't it be marvellous if New Zealand only had to cross the Tasman once in the campaign, and that would be to play the final at the MCG. May well happen, but Ken Rutherford has been there, done that, 87, young man, got a bit of a taste of a World Cup. But in New Zealand in 92, it was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and I think the most phenomenal part of it, Pete, was it came from nothing really, didn't it? I mean, I hadn't been picked to play against England. I think we played 5 one-days against England leading up to that first World Cup match against Australia at Eden Park in 92, and I think we lost that 5-0 series. 5-0. 5 series, 5-0. And I think I played the last 2 games or something like that and lost those, obviously. And we went into the Eden Park game, serious underdogs. I mean, there was no sports betting in those days, but we would have been,
100 to 1.
4, 5, 6 to 1 a 2-horse race. I mean, no chance. And half full Eden Park. I mean, many people forget that. It was actually half full. There was only about 12, 13, 14,000 people there that day. Crowe obviously batted magnificently, got us to a real competitive total, 250-ish, I think it was.
Which in those days was a big score, wasn't it?
Especially at Eden Park.
Absolutely.
With likes of Chris Harris and Gavin and guys like that who were suited to those conditions, low and slow. So we thought 250 would be enough, and that's the way it proved. We fielded it out of our socks that day.
Question I want to know, whose idea and how did it come about that Dipak Patel would open the bowling?
I think there was a few things there happened more by accident than design. I'll be honest, Leesy and Crowe obviously were the brains trust, but I think we're leading into the whole series, we were playing so awful that we had to be...
Because you'd not tried it, had you?
We had to be seen to try something completely different.
Well, there's two changes, wasn't it? Great Batch opened, which was freakish.
Well, that was an accident because Wrighty was injured.
Correct,
Wrighty pulled his hamstring, I think, in the morning of that game against South Africa.
That'd be getting out of bed, which would be a big effort for John, right? Yeah.
So, I mean, that was just a pure bit of luck, really.
Yeah.
And Batchy...
And boy, it worked, didn't it?
And Batchy hadn't scored many runs, to be fair, and it wasn't in great nick. And I think Leesy had a word to him, just said, look, mate, you might as well just go and swing. Because if you try and bat properly, you're not going to score a run here. I mean, they've got Alan Donald, Richard Snell, Adrian Caper, Tertius Bosch, I think, play. They weren't a bad Brian McMillan. They're a pretty good pace attack, weren't they, this evening?
So that worked, and Dipak certainly did. And that captured the public, didn't it?
Well,
it was so different.
You said, when did it come from? It probably came from Otago back in the 80s. Bocky used to bowl with the new white ball on occasions.
Did he?
In particular when the wicket was quite slow and low. I remember Alexander at Molyneux Park on a few occasions. I nearly said Alexander Park then. But Molyneux Park, it used to be quite low and slow, and Wally used to open with Bocky on occasions there, depending on the conditions. So
probably a wee taste of it.
Probably the thought was always the back of his mind from that. But I mean, no one really suspected it would be a tactic we'd use ongoing. It was like a one-off because we knew the Yarpies couldn't play spin bowling that well either.
Of all the adventures you've had with cricket, do you wake up in the middle of the night still thinking about Inzamam El Haq? I do, and I didn't play in it, but he haunts me. Yeah,
no, that was, I mean, because he was young then, wasn't he? I mean, he was only 18 or 19. No one ever heard of him. He was batting, I think, 6 in their order. He was like
big lad.
Big lad.
Yeah.
He looked ungainly in everything he did, and his technique...
Couldn't field, he was hopeless.
Couldn't field as he could eat. His technique wasn't out of the textbook.
No.
He was very much a self-made kind of player, and he turned into one of the great players of Pakistan, didn't he? But then and there, you're right. And Moeen Khan came and played extraordinarily well as well. But look, I wonder if we could have done things a little bit differently. A lot's been said about that. I think it's been done the wrong way through a few books and that too.
Correct, and Johnny Wright having to step in and Crowe going half and things like that. But boy, it was a great festival of cricket, really.
Yeah, it was 7 weeks, wasn't it? And
long
it was,
time.
Listening to Brendan McCullum at the awards thing the other night, just everyone talking about his innings recently, the 300, and how it was sort of brought the whole nation together talking about the game. It was certainly the case for 7 weeks during that World Cup.
The only other one I could think of probably can happen down your way at Carisbrook in those days against Pakistan, and it was Coney and Bock.
I was a reserve fielder for that test, actually. I remember sitting in the dressing room for the majority of that test match in '85. That was, I think, Wasim Akram's first series.
Yes.
And Coney and Chatfield.
Chatfield, that's
Coney
right.
and Chatfield.
They just battered and battered, didn't they?
Look, there'll be people out there who know the exact details of
Correct.
it. I think they had to get about 60 or 70.
Yeah, around about that.
For the last wicket.
Last wicket.
Look, Chats, let's face it.
Couldn't hold the bat, let alone use it.
As he's walking out, you had to sort of tell him how to hold the bat. I mean... and it's not...
Told me one day he forgot to wear a box out because he didn't think he'd be long.
And it's a true story.
True story, yeah. So, I mean, that was one that captured us, and then, of course, the World Cup '92. Yeah. Coming forward, though, you then became a bit of a gypsy, didn't you? You got around the world a bit, saw a lot of life, and where did the TAB thing... I know you were a punter, but... To get involved with the TAB, how did that come back?
Really, Grant Nisbet has always been a mate of mine. So Nisbet has been working at the TAB there for years. So that was the initial win, really. There was a job going there as a bookmaker, and simply.
Now that's the odds setter, isn't it, for non-racing people? You've got to actually quite a responsible job if you get it wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's all about profit and loss, isn't it? And if you price up the wrong team as favourite and things happen against you, then you look a bit of a clown, don't you? But in those days,
sports betting then?
There was sports betting then.
Was there?
It was. I think sports betting came in from about 96, 97. I still remember there was a big Bledisloe Cup test, and Colin Meads was brought out as the big icon at that time. And I'm
was
pretty
that at
sure
the
it was a Bledisloe Cup test. Might have been.
Was it the Brook? Yeah, because I can tell you a funny story about that. I was in the Southern Club, last one to get out after having a couple of quiets before the game. And one of the officials came to me and said, hang on to this thing, and it was the Bledisloe Cup. Yeah. He said, don't give it to anybody. I said, right, I'll do that. And then the legend walks in and he said, give us that thing, Smithy, will you? Colin Meads. I said, I can't give it to you. He said, well, I said, Blake told me I couldn't part with it. He'd give us that thing. So I gave it to him, So, that was a test in Dunedin. I remember that very, very clearly. So How stimulating is it to be a bookie?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I was there at the New Zealand tab doing that job for 5 years, ended up running the show for a couple of years, and then got an offer to go to Singapore doing the same sort of job. So for 10 years I was basically a bookie. And then 2.5 years in Joburg the last couple of years. And,
just on Singapore, do they operate differently from our TAB, or is it similar?
No, far more risk averse. I mean, the bet types we see nowadays with all these sort of novelties, and you're talking off camera about Brendan McCullum's horse winning and how many will Brendan score the next day in a one-day international, that kind of thing. They would never do anything like that. There'd be no risk matrix to analyse it with. Well, see, in Singapore there was 2 different departments doing it. So I was working for the football department, so I was doing soccer betting, and the horse racing actually don't even have fixed odds because their tote is so big.
Really?
Their tote is enormous. I mean, sports betting, just on football alone, we were doing $2 billion a year. Now, to put
$2 billion?
$2 billion Singapore dollar, New Zealand dollar is about 1 for 1. Now, New Zealand racing turnover is just over $1 billion New Zealand dollars, so it's almost double. And in a World Cup year, you're doing about another $1 billion. Yeah, you don't go absolutely.
What would the horses take?
Oh, huge. I mean, it's probably double that a year.
And that's global?
Yeah, well, it's a funny thing. When I arrived there in 2006, they were pretty much only doing local Singapore football, which is the equivalent of going down to English Park and watching the second teams play. I mean, it was...
But they still bet on it.
Oh,
loved it.
An enormous volume. So, yeah, we increased everything. English Premier League, obviously, the Bundesliga, the La Liga, the Italian League, Serie A. Now they're doing everything pretty much, and just keeps going up and up and up.
When we come back, we're going to just quickly touch on South Africa, and then we're going to look forward to a question that I'm getting asked a lot, and I don't know that Ken can actually answer it because he's probably a bit removed from it. What is going to happen when the TAB makes you pay to view? We'll talk about that when we come back in a moment. Welcome back. Ken Rutherford's my guest. We're going to try and scamper through this last part if we can. But Ken went to South Africa. Where did that approach come from, Ken?
Ali Barker, actually. Ali...
great guy.
Yeah, I met him when we toured there in 1994 and kept in contact, and he heard that things hadn't been going that well for me in New Zealand around about then, so he got in touch with me and said, look, if you want a bit of a break from things that are happening back home, why don't you come and captain Transvaal for a couple of seasons, see how it goes. So,
did you enjoy it, Ken?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah. You know, honestly, Pete, I had every intention of coming back after 2 years. I mean, I left when I was 29 years of age.
So and your form was pretty good.
I came pretty good.
Your end up.
Yeah, I did. You know, I went all right. I mean, the last 2 seasons there, I played 5 years there for Transvaal. The last 2 years there, I averaged 70 in first class and got a lot of runs in the one day.
Not bad, is it, really, for your age?
That's right.
Yeah.
I was still only 33, 34. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good. But I got involved in the whole scene over there. I was doing a bit of TV work on the racing channel over there, and
can't keep them away from it.
Yeah, so it got really good for me over there in terms of the whole lifestyle thing.
Yeah. Did you leave the Transvaal at all?
No. I stayed there. I stayed in Joburg.
So Joburg, yeah.
Joburg was home for 7 years, basically.
Did you feel safe, kid?
Not completely. No. You know, I think
that's the downside to it.
That's the big downside.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Pete, it's not just Joburg anymore. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, how can you live in Joburg? But I mean, gee whiz.
Anywhere. Mind you, anywhere in the blooming world.
Yeah, if you're walking around Cape Town or Durban or places, you know, you've got to be careful.
Loved Kings Park in Durban.
Kings Park, been there a few times.
Mate,
very steep, great view. And
just the whole out the back,
the whole after party,
that's what makes it.
It's balmy.
If you get a chance to go to South Africa, go, because but go when the All Blacks are there, not a World Cup.
No.
It's not good luck there. Then the call, what happened then? Where did you go from there?
Well, came back to the TAB here,
the TAB,
2001, So then did my apprenticeship as a bookie, then ran the sports betting unit there for a couple of years, and then went to Singapore in 2006.
Right. Then moved from there to where?
Back to Joburg. I mean, I remarried a Joburg girl, so we've got two young daughters.
Did you run into Carlos Spencer at all?
I did.
Yeah.
I see
Because he's still there, isn't he?
He's still there, loves it.
He loves it.
I used to see Carlos quite a bit, actually.
We used to see him a bit at Lancaster Park, too, in those days. Didn't like him. He's probably a nice guy, but didn't Then, to come back to what I would say, apart from cricket, is probably your greatest passion, and that's racing.
Yeah.
You've now got a very responsible job as CEO of Waikato Racing.
Yeah, look, I was always keen to come back to New Zealand. Yeah, the short.
Your wife was?
Yeah, she was
keen to
too.
come.
Yeah, it took a bit of arm twisting, but I mean,
she wouldn't leave him.
With a 14-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old daughter, I think it's time to come back, and get them schooling and living a proper life.
Lovely setup, isn't it, Waikato? It's the home, really, of the thoroughbred.
Yeah, it is. You know, all around there, as you know, it's the studs and the breeding and everything like that. Look, the facilities at Te Rapa need a bit of a kick up the backside, but We've got a lovely parade ring out the back. We've got a terrific track, especially in winter time. Our track's probably
As good as any.
as good as anything,
Yeah.
as you say. And no, look, it's a lot of potential there. And
How's your committee, Ken? Because that's the only downside being a CEO.
look, we've got Karen Fenton Ellis, who'll be well known
Yeah.
to your viewers in terms of trackside. She's very go ahead. She's our chairman. Steve Davis is on our board. Most of the board.
Never met him, want to meet him, want to do a one-on-one, because I think that program that's on Trackside is a great program.
Very
off the
good.
track, isn't
Off
it?
the track,
Yeah,
he
you
does
learn
it.
so much.
He does a really good
He's
job,
very
Steve,
good at it.
so-
Well, I'm going to get him. I'll get him through
you'll
you.
get him, you'll get
okay. So, how long have you been in that role?
Only 6 months now, so we've got
Seems longer.
It does seem longer.
Yeah.
1st of August or 7 months now, but no, really enjoying it. It's a challenge though, Pete. I mean, in talking to Tim Mills here at the local club, he's going through the same sort of issues. He's built your Cup week. I mean,
Yes.
I remember the New Zealand Galloping Cup Day years ago. No one used to go.
Non-event.
Non-event, but now it's become,
Everything was the Tuesday and all the rest.
Yeah, now-
Show day, of course, used to be big too, didn't
That's
it?
right.
You know, it
Now it's
hadn't
become
got
on
all.
par with what the harness guys have been doing for
Well, they've
years.
had to close it, yeah.
That's right. So, but that didn't happen overnight. He's built their brand over a number of years, and we've got to do the same thing at Te Rawa.
So when is your carnival time? Do you have one?
We haven't really got one. I mean, our biggest day is Waikato Cup Day, which is the mid-December. So that obviously the timing is Christmas parties and things like that. We haven't got a carnival as such, and our best chance for carnival is the start of February when we have Guineas Day, the first Saturday in February, then International Day with the sprint and a couple of other nice races. But February is not a great time for spending money. With credit card bills need to be
all
repaid
coming
after
in,
Christmas,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, unfortunately, Waitangi Day sits at bad times for us as well. People take long weekends
Correct.
and stuff like that. So that's certainly something we've got to look towards.
Right. So just a couple of plans that you've got just in your back of your mind that you'd really like to have a crack at?
Well, we've got to get some money in the tin, Pete. We're no different to probably 95% of the racing clubs in New Zealand. Unfortunately, we're running at
Ageing fan base?
aging fan base and running repairs and maintenance on buildings which we don't even use anymore. I mean, apart from your big days, but even then, the experience which I think we all prefer now is like outside marquees, that kind of scenario, rather than going
in a way,
into
it's
old
helped
buildings.
Timmy Mills at Riccarton Park as well. With the disappearance of a stand, now they can do so much more that
100%.
the young people want.
Correct. It's
Yeah.
more modern. It's what you can cater for. And unfortunately, we're, as much as a lot of other racing clubs in New Zealand, we're laboured with
Running out
what
of
we've
time,
got.
Ken, the substitute, there's no substitute. You've got to have the champion horse, don't you?
You've
That
got to
brings
have the
people.
champion horse,
Yeah.
and I remember going to watch Bone Crusher in 1987 run the White Robe Lodge at Wingatui. Now, if he wasn't there that day,
No one.
15,000 people would never have gone.
We need a black caviar.
We do.
We do. And we should be able to breed one. And hopefully
Well, unfortunately,
do you
we-
do stud tours?
Yeah, look,
What I'd love to do, that's all.
Yeah, no, you can go to Windsor. I mean, I live in Cambridge, so you can go down the road, Windsor Park, and have a word with the chicks there. So.
You talk to Sir Patrick?
Yeah, we see him often.
Does he love his rugby or what? That man,
He does love his rugby.
Yeah, I can tell you a story about him. Anyway, moving on. You've got a son now that is going in a similar way to yourself. Started brilliantly with a Test 100. You can't do any better than that. But since then, it's got difficult, hasn't it? How's he handling it?
Yeah, no, he's handling it all right. He's handling it very well. Look, he's got a long way to go. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully he can.
Young man,
he
a
can
lot of
learn.
talent.
24 years old. He's 25 in about 6 weeks' time, but he's got all the talent. But as you say, he's got to learn from the mistakes he's made. There's a couple of technical areas which has been shown up, and I went to watch him play Northern Districts the other day in a one-day game at Seddon Park, and even at domestic level now, I can see that the bowlers are aware of where they should be bowling to,
Right.
which is quite straight.
They found him out.
They found him out,
Yeah.
and he's got to come back with a retort.
Who's
of-
mentoring him, Ken?
Well, I have a bit to do with him. He's very close to Bob Carter.
Right.
And I know that Bob has a fair bit to do with him, which is a good thing. I think Bob's very well regarded.
I
does
think
a
the
good
whole
job.
management group's working well, isn't it? Bond, Carter,
Terrifically.
and
Bond, Carter, and Hessen just seems to be
fitted in.
be playing the conductor, if you like, and making sure everyone's playing the same tune.
Ken, it's gone too quick. I'm sorry, mate. There's a lot more we want to talk about. Wish you the best of luck in your job. We haven't even got round to why you've got to pay now to watch the races, apart from one comment you've got to make quickly, which is...
Well, it's happening overseas, Pete.
No different from the rest of the world.
To be fair,
Yeah.
I was running media for Pumalala, who's a South African TAB. You've got to pay for it over there. UK, Australia, it's just for praise.
But we will get someone from the TAB, I promise you, on Pete Smith Host, and we'll talk about it. Have a look next week on Pete Smith Host, because we may have the new set in. Pretty exciting stuff. Till then, catch you next week. Thanks, Ken, very much for your time. Hope you've enjoyed it. See you next week.